Hi, everyone. Welcome to the June meeting of Citizens Climate Lobby. I'm Flannery Winchester, CCL's Senior Director of Communications. Please go ahead and also introduce yourself in the Q&A so that we can all see it and we can welcome each other. Let us know where you're joining from and how many folks are there with you. And you can also use the link in the chat to log your attendance on the call today so that we officially know you were here. So right at the top of the call today, I want to say welcome to our chapters who are newly active or who held climate advocate training workshops this month. So shout out to Toledo, Ohio, Raritan Valley, and Hudson communities, both in New Jersey, our statewide chapter in Wyoming, and 4th District, Iowa. So thank you guys for being on the call with us this month. All right, let's get started. So as you might be able to tell from my background, I am in the Omni Shoreham Hotel in Washington, D.C. I'm here for CCL's 15th annual summer conference and lobby day. And I'm not alone. Hundreds of CCL volunteers are already here in town, and more are pouring in all day long, getting ready for an incredible conference and visit to Capitol Hill. I know I speak for every CCL staff member when I say we are so excited to welcome everyone to the conference. And for those of you who couldn't join us in person this year, we are feeling your support and encouragement from all around the country. So we have a packed agenda for today's call. We'll hear from a pair of guest speakers who have a long history with CCL and now have the inside scoop on Capitol Hill. So I'm excited to share that conversation with you. And we'll have time for Q&A to answer some of your burning questions about our Capitol Hill Lobby Day. And of course, we'll celebrate recent successes and review what actions you can take this month. Plus, throughout today's call, we'll also be popping over to check in with different conference activities that are already underway. So let's jump right in with that. Ellie Sparks is at the conference registration desk as our sort of correspondent in the field, and she's going to give us a look at how things are going so far.
Flannery, I'm down here in the lobby, right in front of the registration desk over there. We're greeting folks as they come in, and let's see. Mark Reynolds is here. Come on over, Mark. All right, hello, give me a hug.
How are you? So this is my favorite day of the year. You know, all day volunteers are streaming into the lobby. You see some of them out in the, I even got honked at really loud because I was standing in the middle of the street hugging Carl Dance. So it's such a great day. It's so exciting. We have over 1,000 people coming, people registered from all 50 states, people from 5 African countries, you know, and just seeing everybody. There's some people, this is the only time you see them in a year, or maybe you haven't seen them for a couple of years. So it's just, it's so fun, it's so exciting, I'm really happy to be here.
We're so glad. It feels like coming home to me when I drive up to the Omni and walk in. It's so familiar.
Yeah, I feel the same way, actually. I feel like it's kind of my home away from home. And there is something about what happens when you get a big group of CCLers together. You know, you get 10 CCLers together, and it's great. You get 100, and it's amazing. And you get 1,000. And for me, that experience every year for the last 14 years has been transformational.
Awesome. Thank you, Mark.
Thank
All right,
you.
give me another hug. Here I am down at the registration desk with the interns. They are coming from all over. Let's see if we can hear where some of them are coming from. Tell us a little bit.
I'm Nabila, and I'm coming from Houston, Texas.
Houston, all right.
I'm Crystal. I'm from the New York City metropolitan area.
New York City, all right.
James from St. Paul, Minnesota.
Minnesota.
Hi, I'm Mabel from Austin, Texas.
Austin, come on up from the back. Let's hear you too.
Hi, I'm Erica. I'm from Ontario, California.
All right.
Hi, I'm Georgiana. I'm from Los Angeles, California.
All right, so they've been here for a day, at least 2 days, putting all the materials together. They're going to be greeting all of the volunteers. They'll be busy all morning and then helping throughout the rest of the conference, right? Woo! All right, thank you, interns.
Absolutely. Thank you, interns, and great to see Mark Reynolds. That's CCL's current executive director. All right, so thank you, Ellie, for that peek at registration. All right, now let's take a few minutes to celebrate some of our recent successes. Please go ahead and share any of your individual CCL wins or your chapter successes in the Q&A so they're visible to everyone. And I will read some of those out loud in a few minutes after I share our national highlights. So at the national level, we've hit a couple of exciting milestones recently. First was the action for our May Climate Action Program. which was to contact Congress about recent research from the Hamilton Project and the Brookings Institution, which showed the effectiveness of a carbon price. So that's what this slide is here, showing just how effective a carbon fee would be at bringing down emissions. And CCL volunteers sent 9,574 messages last month, making sure all our senators and representatives have seen this new study and know just how powerful a carbon price would be for meeting our climate goals. Also last month, our incoming executive director, Rachel Carestis, was announced. We're super excited for her to come on board, and we're going to hear from her personally a little later in the call, so stay tuned for that. And of course, as Mark just mentioned to Ellie, we were thrilled to pass 1,000 registrations for this conference and lobby day. We have people registered from all 50 states and the District of Columbia, so Congress will be hearing a unified cry for climate action from every corner of the country. All right, so that's a bit of what we're celebrating at the national level. And now let's hear a few of your local successes. So let me open up the Q&A and see what y'all have been up to. So right off the top, I know that CCL Beaufort in South Carolina hosted a Climate and Our Environment Forum featuring two of the primary candidates from South Carolina's 1st Congressional District, so that's awesome. Our Westchester chapter in New York has been giving climate presentations to local middle schools and high schools last month. I see Jan says 6 published LTEs in May. Awesome. CCL Canada just lobbied 11 members of parliament and 4 senators on Parliament Hill in Ottawa. Fantastic. Jim is talking about fundraising for an initiative in Washington State. There's an initiative to repeal the Climate Commitment Act, so they are working to protect that. Fantastic. All right, well, great work going on out there in the field. Thank you, everybody, and keep up the wonderful work. Congratulations on all those recent wins. All right, so now we'll turn to our guests for this month, Morgan McHugh and Kesten Bazinovich. They are former CCL staffers turned Capitol Hill staffers, so they have some wonderful insights and encouragements to share with our whole volunteer base as we look ahead to Lobby Day on Tuesday. So I actually recorded this conversation with them a few days ago while Congress was on recess. So you won't see them in their normal Capitol Hill office, but we had a really great discussion that I think you'll enjoy. Hello, you two. Thank you so much for being here with us. So let's kick it off with you both introducing yourselves and your current role on Capitol Hill. So Morgan, you want to start?
Yeah, sure. Great to see you. Hi, everyone. My name is Morgan McHugh. I'm the Senior Legislative Assistant for Congressman Jared Huffman. He represents California's 2nd District, so from the Golden Gate Bridge to the Oregon border. And I advise the Congressman on a whole set of issues, including natural resources, public lands and forestry, energy, climate, science, technology, and tribal and insular affairs.
Fantastic. And Kesten, how about you?
Hi, I'm Kesten Bazinovich. Super excited to be here today. I'm the Sea Grant Knaus Fellow with Representative Hoffman's office, so I've been on the Hill for about 4 months. Morgan gave a great introduction into the area that he represents, and Morgan and I work together pretty closely on natural resources issues. I'm a little bit more focused on ocean, fisheries, and wildlife policy areas.
Okay, super cool. And so thank you both so much for your time today. We're excited to hear from you, of course, because you're staffers on Capitol Hill, but also because you are coming from, in a past life, you were on staff with CCL. So tell us a little bit about remind us of what your roles were or role was when you were here with CCL and how long you were on staff. So Morgan?
Yeah, so I worked for CCL for about 5 years. I started as an intern in 2017 with Amy Bennett in San Diego, actually with Kesten. And once I finished undergrad, I had the honor and privilege of being the assistant to the president and founder, Marshall Saunders. And then after that role, I became the project coordinator, where I worked on, planning and managing initiatives, training volunteers, and really supporting our volunteers in their climate advocacy. Then I moved to DC and joined the government affairs team as a legislative coordinator, where I worked on researching and analyzing environmental legislation and really helping to develop resources to educate CCLers on congressional and policy related topics.
Awesome. What a ride. And so Kesten, you were also on staff, also started as an intern with Morgan, it sounds like.
I did, yes. And this was actually my first internship ever. I was right out of high school when I found CCL. So I was 18 years old, totally new to the environmental policy space. Started as an intern with Amy Bennett. After a couple years, moved on to be the executive assistant to the executive director at the time, Mark Reynolds. And then after a couple years there, I moved to DC, and that's where I started working a little bit more with the government affairs team. So I was also kind of in between a couple roles. I worked closely with the vice president of government affairs at the time, Danny Richter, as his executive assistant. I was also part of the government affairs team, helping coordinate some of our analysis for our June lobby meetings, November lobby meetings, and then also looking into bills and policy, but still working very closely with CCL's congressional liaison program. And by the end of my time at CCL, I was there for about 6 years. I was running our CCL's congressional program, which was super exciting to be on that side of training volunteers how to best engage with Congress, setting up lobby meetings, organizing the big lobby events, and now being on this side in Congress to see what the impact is with the staff that they're meeting with.
Absolutely. Okay, well, so let's stay on that for a minute and let's talk a little bit about your experience, Kesten, because you were so integral to planning the big lobby days that we do every year that our volunteers are getting ready to do on Tuesday. So can you just tell us a little bit about what does it kind of look like behind the scenes to handle when you have hundreds of people planning to come to Capitol Hill, hundreds of CCL volunteers, and you have to figure out, what meetings they're going in and how the teams come together. Can you just tell us a little bit about logistically how that all happens?
Yes, so I'll start by saying it is 100% a team effort. There are a lot of moving parts, and the very first and one of the most important parts of the process are you all, the volunteers, setting up the meetings with your members of Congress and their staff. And so that's kind of where the process starts. I won't go into all the technical kind of applications that the CCL liaisons have to go through when they're entering their meeting information and going through the process, but there is a system where your congressional CCL liaisons are updating CCL staff every step through the process as they're reaching out for a meeting, as they're hearing back from offices, as they're setting up the meeting. And that just helps those at CCL staff kind of make sure that things are running smoothly and we're making the progress where we want to see progress. And as meetings come in, there's a whole process where the government affairs staff works closely with your regional directors and are kind of figuring out who are some people we might want to make sure in certain meetings who are constituents or maybe have an existing relationship with the office, and giving advice on sort of when to schedule meetings, because there are a number of meetings that are being scheduled all for the same day, and you all as volunteers are going to likely be in multiple meetings that day. So there's a lot of timing decisions that have to be made as well. And then as meetings come in, meetings get a little bit set up with which volunteers are going to be in them. But it's really critical to kind of make that progress and set meetings with your offices, because at a certain point, we kind of have to close the process. And then whichever meetings are set, volunteers get set into them. But the meetings that are still being worked on are set as to be determined. So there are still, once you get to DC, some moving parts that happen because meetings will come in after that deadline. And it's really a team effort to figure out who can actually attend those meetings, because you have certain volunteers slotted for meetings that haven't been set yet. There might have to be some schedule changes. Sometimes staffers have to make changes last minute. Things happen in DC and their schedules get shifted around. So there is a process that happens behind the scenes. There's a lot of communication that's happening with CCL staff and especially CCL liaisons. But in the end, everyone's working together, kind of figuring out as they go. And it somehow comes together at the end every year.
It does. Every year we make it happen. Well, thank you for all the years that you were so involved in making it happen. It sounds like quite an operation behind the scenes. Well, so now that you two both are on Capitol Hill, you're on the other side of these lobby days that we plan every year. So I'm curious to hear as a staffer, what kind of impact does a lobby day like we're going to have on Tuesday have on you and your office? Like how is it unique that we're coming in with such a big group? We're having, so many hundreds of meetings. What kind of impression does it make on you? And Morgan, we can go to you.
Yeah, man, it's extremely impactful to see that many people on the Hill advocating for the same cause. As someone who also, lobbied for CCL, I'm so proud and excited during lobby week and to see how many of you that are actually there each year, going to the Longworth cafeteria and just seeing it like flooded with CCLers. I'm just like, it really just makes me so excited and proud. The other thing is that like, people know when it's CCL lobby week. I'll talk to my colleagues and be like, "Oh, you meet with your CCL district, chapter?" And they're like, "Yeah, I'm so excited. Lobby week again." And you really get to also like meet different folks when you're like walking around the halls of Congress because they're like truly everywhere. I also love that CCL like makes an effort to meet with both sides of the aisle. I think very rarely do you see groups really prioritize that. And it can be, frustrating as a staffer if a group comes in and wants to just take a meeting because they think it's going to be easy because maybe they know that your office supports this issue, and yet they're not reaching for the folks that might be a little bit harder to get on board, because that's how we get stuff done in Congress. It has to be bipartisan and it has to have both those who might not support the specific issue or be less inclined to, and those who do. And so lobbyists and constituents really should be meeting with both sides of the aisle. And it's like really awesome to be able to like be in a meeting with CCLers and be like, "Oh, did you meet with so and so?" And they're like, "Yep, we have folks that are meeting with them, later today." I think very rarely do you get to actually like ask constituents and lobbyists if they're meeting with like, other members and they say like, "Oh yeah, we're meeting with like pretty much almost all of them. We have 400 meetings." Like that is insanely rare. I've never been in a meeting where they say that. So I think that CCLers should be extremely proud of their work, extremely excited, and know that like on the Hill we see that effort and we respect that effort, and we're really, at least I am very proud of that effort.
Oh,
Yeah,
awesome.
I'd agree there. I think Morgan covered a lot of what's really remarkable about the way that CCL does a lobby event. The other thing that I'll emphasize is that other groups do these types of like fly-ins where they bring people in to meet with their members of Congress. Having hundreds of meetings is remarkable. I've never heard another instance where a group has that many meetings in a day. And I've also never seen an example where a constituent is the one that has the relationship with the office and is setting the meeting and bringing other volunteers to DC to have those meetings. I think a lot of times it's a group that's organizing this and they kind of bring constituents in to meet with their members of Congress, but to have that long-standing relationship and those touches from an actual constituent in the district, I think makes a lot of difference and shows the true like grassroots spirit that CCL has.
Okay, well, so something else that we you guys know we're trying to do here is we make a really big effort to infuse respect and appreciation into how we interact with congressional offices. And I'm curious to know, how often do you guys get polite phone calls or social media comments versus ones where people are angry or frustrated or yelling at you? Like, does it make a difference to you or to your boss when someone approaches y'all in a respectful way?
Yeah, I think, Kesten and I we're really lucky and grateful that we have, interns who field phone calls from the district, from constituents. And we have an amazing director of comms who goes through our social media comments, but we're in the same office as them. And we know that they get a lot of aggressive and intense calls and comments. We can tell when an intern is on the phone with someone who is frustrated and clearly upset and angry or yelling at them. And it makes a huge difference to just treat people with respect. I think, people often forget that while the issues that they're advocating for are their number one or their priority, members and staff work on dozens of topics every day. And when lobbyists and constituents are kind and respectful and understanding, I think it makes, a lot easier for us. Our jobs are to serve the public, and I think we'll continue to do that regardless of how we're treated. But showing up with respect and willingness and to meet others where they're at is really crucial for building long and lasting relationships. And again, when I'm talking to colleagues on the Hill and I get to talk about my background and say I worked for CCL for 5 years, they're like, "That's awesome. We love our CCL chapter. They're so nice. They're so respectful. Our meetings are also great." A lot of people don't have that reputation on the Hill, a lot of groups, and so it's really important, something unique to CCL.
Cool. Yeah, a little understanding goes a long way.
Yeah, and I'll also add, like, everything Morgan said is absolutely true, and it's really easy to build a reputation, especially in the House. The offices are small. You're likely, like, staffers are likely all working in the same room. And from the way that, you represent yourself, if you're calling the office or as you're going back and forth with the scheduler to set up a meeting, it's really easy for the way that you interact with the office to kind of like trickle down, and everyone sort of knows what the reputation is of a group. So being respectful along all those chains of communication, up from like setting up the meeting to actually having the meeting, I think makes a really big impact. And it's easy to build a good reputation and for people to be excited to take your meeting and excited to take the follow-up action or really dig into your ask. So it definitely makes a difference in the work that we do.
So with all this talk of lobby meetings, and of course knowing that y'all were with CCL for so many years, I would love to hear any stories or reflections from your time as constituent lobbyists. So what was it like, either maybe the first time that you lobbied, or do you have any good stories from your time in CCL lobby meetings?
So I was 18 years old for my first lobby meeting, my first lobby event. It was my first time traveling to a new state without my family all the way across the country. And then I think one of the standout moments of that lobby event is in one of my other meetings, the member was in the meeting. And I remember we went all around the room and like did our introductions. And when I said that I was a student, his face lit up and he was so excited to have a young person in the meeting. And he was really engaged after that point. And I also remember when we were walking out of the meeting, like through their office door, he kind of hung back with me and was chatting casually and just asking me questions about what I was studying in college and just like about my life. And I think that also flipped a switch in my brain where I'm like, members of Congress and staff really care about those personal connections, and they want to hear the different perspectives from people that are, again, living in their districts and states. And so that was a really exciting moment to see the unique perspective that I was bringing to Congress and how that really kind of shifted the energy of the meeting. That was very exciting.
To wrap up here, I would love to know what advice would you guys give now, knowing, of course, that you have both sides of this perspective, right? You've been in our lobby meetings, now you're on Capitol Hill taking these meetings. So with all of that insight, what advice would you give to our volunteer citizen lobbyists on Tuesday?
Yeah, I think I don't have to say this to CCLers, but come prepared, know that a meeting that's set for 30 minutes could be 5, and just, have that plan B in your head. One of the things that I'll flag is I really appreciate when folks ask me at the beginning of the meeting, like, how much do you know about this topic? Are you familiar with this topic? Do you want me to give you some background? There are times where I know topic well enough and I'm like, go ahead and just jump into the ask or jump into further down. We don't need all the background. There are other times I'm like, actually, can I have a refresher? So that's really important. And I think, the main thing that is so important to remember is, every office obviously is different, but try not to stress too much. Like, members and staff, we're all humans. When it comes down to it, it's just having a conversation and understanding that people have different beliefs that you have is great and is okay. And being able to accept that and continuing to be kind and respectful is so important. I mean, staffers can meet anywhere between 30 to 50 people a day, depending on how busy our meetings are, or our days are. So I think, it could be a treat and a delight to just really have a conversation with someone, talk about, also, what did you do in DC? Like, we're all human. We're all wanting that sort of connection. And it seems like everything is always day to day, one after the other, one after the other. So I think being able to take a step back and realize that we're both just people, we're both here in DC, and how can we help each other, fill our cups today, sort of a thing.
Love that.
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing I want to flag is do not get discouraged if you're not meeting face to face with your member of Congress. I know it's really exciting to meet with them, but there are so many reasons why they might not be able to make the meeting. Their schedules are incredibly hectic, and they have a lot of things to prioritize. And also, members of Congress have a lot of trust in their staff. And the staff are the ones that are also day in, day out working on these issues, really digging into the policy and really following up on your ask. So I just want to share, like, never feel discouraged if you continually are getting meetings with staff. That's actually really important to do. And those are the relationships that are important to make. Not to say that it's not super cool to meet with your member of Congress, because I was floored when I first met with a member my first lobby day, but I just want to throw that out there. Another tip that's really helpful for us is if you're able to send materials electronically, that's great. Whether it's before the meeting or after, having the physical handouts in the meeting are really helpful when we're, talking through the asks that you have or the bills that you want to talk through. But as Morgan said, we have a lot of meetings and we also get a lot of handouts, and it's easy to get lost in that paper shuffle. And so to have it electronically in your inbox to refer to later on is really, really useful. It's also a great little follow-up that you can do if you're searching for something to kind of flag as you're sending your follow-up email to an office. And then I also just want to end on the relationship aspect. If you have a personal connection to the district, to the member of Congress, maybe it's something that the staffer shared about their own background, share that in the meeting. Like, so much of this work is really based on relationships. And if you have any type of personal connection at all, staffers want to hear it. I've been in meetings where just like sharing that maybe you visited a place where the staffer grew up one time can totally shift the energy of the meeting, and it really kind of opens up to more of this casual conversation, and really lends well to building a long-lasting relationship with the office. So don't feel discouraged or intimidated to share those small tidbits. We love it.
Awesome. Well, thank you both so much for taking some time. I know you're not even in the office today. You guys are on recess, so thank you so much for setting aside some time to speak with us and share all your perspective, all your stories, all your insights. This is super helpful, and I know the folks on the call today are feeling bolstered and especially energized to come visit on Capitol Hill here in a couple of days. So thank you so much.
Thank you, and best of
Thank you
luck.
for having
All
us.
right, so let's go to your questions. As I mentioned before, we have Mindy Aller, CCL's Liaison Program Coordinator, here with us. She coordinates our Capitol Hill Lobby Days, so she's here live to answer a few of your questions about lobby meetings, Capitol Hill itself, anything and everything. So we have just a few minutes, and so let's start off with first off, just how many meetings do we have scheduled for Tuesday? What's Tuesday looking like? And since we're all here for the conference, Mindy is right here with me. Over to you, Mindy.
Yeah, well, I'm really excited that we are now up to 432 confirmed meetings. 200 of those are with Republican offices, 227 with Democrat offices, and 5 of them with independent offices. And of those, 97 of those meetings are in the Senate. So we have 97 of 100 Senate meetings already scheduled. And the meetings keep coming in. So I'm sure during this call, I will get another message from one of our liaisons saying, I got a time, here's what it is.
Awesome. Okay, thanks, Mindy. We have a question in the chat or in the Q&A from Francis, pointing out that they're not a constituent in any of the meetings that they have on Tuesday. So what's the best way to approach that with staff if you're in a lobby meeting, but you are not actually a constituent of that district or state?
So I'm going to assume that there are no constituents at all in that meeting. Sometimes we'll have one constituent and then a lot of non-constituents. But if there are no constituents at all, a great thing to do is go to CCL Community and look up our CCL statistics, and you'll see how many CCL supporters we have in that district. So you can say that I'm here on behalf of the constituents of these CCL supporters that we have in your district and in your state. And it usually is a constituent that has made the appointment for you. So they've already asked you to be there on their behalf to deliver this message.
Okay, that's a great tip, Mindy. Let this be encouragement to anybody who's at home. If you know that there's nobody from your congressional district here at the conference this year, make a plan now to send someone next year so that there's someone from your hometown to meet with your member of Congress. It always helps send the meeting just over the top. All right, so for our last question here, Mindy, I would love to know what's your advice for a first-time lobbyist? You're the one who is currently working with our liaisons, helping them be successful. So what advice would you give?
I think most importantly, what I remind people is lobbying for CCL, and the way we do it is a team sport. So no one is there by themselves. You're there with other people assigned to your lobby team to help you in this process. And so we all work together to make these lobby meetings successful. One person is going to have one bit of expertise. Yeah, another person will have other expertise. And between you, you will come up with the perfect things. You'll also help remind each other to stop talking too much so that we let the staff members talk more in the meetings and have fun.
Awesome. All right. Thank you so much, Mindy. All right, so that's all the time we have for live questions. But if you think of other questions, feel free to submit those in the Q&A and Mindy can type an answer back to you. And thanks again to Morgan and Kesten for sharing their insights. And all right, so now we are going to take a look at our June action sheet for actions that we can all be working on this month. So first, you can help amplify our Lobby Day message to Congress. So on Tuesday, June 11th, we're going to have these hundreds of meetings that Mindy was just mentioning. And our primary ask is for more support of a bipartisan bill called the Prove It Act. So we're asking everyone at home in DC, all our CCL volunteers, to call their members of Congress about the Prove It Act, so that way our senators and representatives hear about this legislation from folks back home and from our volunteers in the offices next week. And if you really want to go the extra mile, you can work on local media coverage of this conference and our lobbying asks. So there are details about how to do that in our June action sheet. We also have a communication exercise this month about the Prove It Act, so that you can get a little more practice talking about this bipartisan bill with folks who might stop by your outreach tables this summer. You can find that practice script on the June action sheet. And of course, for those of you at home, an action you can take this month is to tune into our live stream of content from right here at the conference. So we'll be live streaming the conference kickoff tomorrow morning, our keynote sessions, a whole host of breakout sessions, the list goes on. So you can see the full list of what we're streaming on our website at cclusa.org/summer. Or you can hop straight over to our YouTube channel anytime, cclusa.org/YouTube, and you can watch what's live. Another way to be part of the conference is to share our social media posts from the event, which you can find on all our social media profiles, or you can go to our Spread the Word page at cclusa.org/STW. Now, we do have two actions this month that are not conference related, believe it or not. One action I want to remind you of is to share your perspective on CCL and your climate advocacy work with our incoming executive director, Rachel Kesten. We have a form set up where you can share all sorts of things with her. So you can explain what motivates you to be a climate advocate, maybe share your best lobbying stories or your outreach experiences. And of course, you can ask her your questions. What questions do you have for her as she comes on board to lead our work? You can put all of that in the form at cclusa.org/hi-Rachel. And now we're actually going to hear a special message from Rachel herself.
CCL, my name is Rachel Kesten, and I'm your incoming executive director. It's so incredibly exciting to say that and to know that I'll get to know all of you soon. I'm coming to this work after 5 years of leading Science is Us, a nonprofit dedicated to bridging the gap between science and policy, and who, like CCL, strives to be bipartisan, positive, and transformative in all that it does. I've heard a lot about the amazing work that CCL volunteers do, and I'm excited to have the opportunity to work alongside all of you. I'm told that you held more than 25,000 climate conversations across the country during Earth Month. That is simply amazing. So let me join you and let's talk climate. I'm speaking to you today from the Ron Sapp Egan's Creek Greenway near my home in Fernandina Beach, Florida. The Greenway is a protected area of over 300 acres and a unique environment. It's part salt marsh, part maritime forest, and part hydro hammock. It's home to scores of native plants, birds, and animals, including turtles, marsh rabbits, and my favorite, the American alligator. Salt marshes are really important in climate conversations because in addition to the plant and animal habitat they support, they also provide an important buffer in coastal communities from severe storms and rising sea levels. Marshes also sequester carbon in their vegetation, peaty muds, and other organic material. What's remarkable about the Greenway is that it exists today because of the actions of the citizens of Fernandina Beach, nonprofit organizations, and elected officials. Sound familiar? It's a perfect example of why climate conversations matter. I know that hundreds of you will be heading to Capitol Hill to have more conversations with members of Congress and to move us closer to the climate policy we need. Thank you for taking that time, for going to these meetings, and for having these conversations. I also know that the work isn't limited to DC. For those of you not in town for Lobby Day, your work to contact your senators and representatives is an essential part of the effort to make it clear that people all over the country want climate action. I look forward to hearing how all of your conversations went, and I look forward to hearing more about why CCL is as important to you as it will be to me. I also want to hear your questions for me as I come on board. My first day as executive director will be later this month, and the top of my priorities is to get to know you and to understand what drives you to do this important work with CCL. I'll be doing that in several ways over my first few months on the job. You'll see me pop up in meetings, working closely with our regional directors and programs, and to make sure that I get to meet as many of you as possible. You'll also receive a link to a form to provide me your thoughts in advance. Please do fill out that form. I look forward to getting to know you and engaging with you on this very critical work together. Thank you, and see you soon!
Wonderful. So definitely keep that conversation going with Rachel at that form, cclusa.org/hi Rachel. And last but not least, we're encouraging you to kick off your summer outreach with a chapter social. This is a great way to stay connected with the folks in your chapter and also welcome in people who might be newer after all your Earth Month outreach earlier this spring. So you can find some more guidance on these socials in the June action sheet. All right, so that's almost everything we've got for you today. For our last portion of the call, we are going to go to our other correspondent out in the field, CCL staffer Alyssa Tennant, for a look at the outreach we're doing in DC today.
Hi Flannery, it's Alyssa. We're out on the National Mall today having climate conversations as part of our student summit. We are having conversations with all of these people who are joining me today right outside the Washington Monument here in DC. And if we have a really good conversation, you can even have a sticker. So the reason that we're talking about climate change today is because you and I know it's a really, really important issue. But a lot of people are really uncomfortable talking about it. They think it's a little doom and gloom. It just makes them uncomfortable. But if we don't talk about it, then our elected representatives don't hear about it, and they don't feel like they need to take action. And we know they need to take action. So we're out here building on our 25,000 climate conversations we had in the month of April. And we are building on that number and having even more with all the people on the mall. So we're gonna find some volunteers today and see how their conversations are going and do a little check-in. We have 2 volunteers here who have been out tabling on the National Mall today with us. So if you could tell us what your name is and where you're from.
I'm Gabriella and I am from Miami, Florida.
Hi, my name is Ava Williams and I'm from Billings, Montana. Thank you for coming all the way out to DC to have these climate conversations with us. So what is your favorite climate conversations opener that you've been using today?
I have to say, just mentioning about basically saying, are you concerned for the environment, and mentioning climate change, and then just saying that we work on the national level with policy, and then ask where they're from, and then see if there's a chapter there that they might be interested in and getting involved.
Beautiful.
There's 2 pair of boys who actually, one of them is going to be you in the fall, and we have a big Boston chapter over there. So we gave him a business card and he's hopefully going to get connected with it. So I think definitely going up to youth who are oftentimes very excited about the cause is a great way to garner support.
Yeah, conversations have been going well. We've been talking to a lot of youth and we've been handing out a lot of stickers and a lot of cards, and so hopefully we get a lot of support from this.
Awesome job, guys. Thank you so much for tabling out here with us and having climate conversations. Keep it up.
Thank you. Sure.
Sir, do you have a moment to talk about climate change? What are your thoughts? Sir?
Oh my gosh, love it. Okay, well, thank you everyone for being here for this month's meeting. We will say goodbye now with a round of CCL TV. Let's go have a great conference and an incredible lobby day. Oh, there's a shot from live in the ambassador room. Hey, everybody. All right, thanks everyone for being here. We'll see you for the July call.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Citizens Climate Lobby's training program. You can tune into more episodes anywhere podcasts are available. Inspired by what you heard today? Join Citizens Climate Lobby to advocate for bipartisan climate solutions. Go to community.citizensclimate.org to find more trainings, resources, your local chapter, national action teams, discussion forums, and more. Be sure to like our Facebook page and follow us on Twitter and Instagram @CitizensClimate. We also invite all of our listeners to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more inspiration.
Like what you hear? Recommend us to your friends and make sure to give us a 5-star rating. It helps us show up on other listeners' feeds. Feel free to pass on any suggestions for future episodes in the comments as well.
And together, we are creating the political will for a livable world.